A teaching assistant in South Carolina allegedly spent an entire month spraying fecal odor spray throughout his high school campus, racking up $55,000 in damages before anyone realized the smell of raw sewage flooding the hallways wasn't coming from the pipes. Alexander Paul Robertson Lewis, 32 years old, showed up to work at West Florence High School every single day between August 25th and September 19th with a can of internet-ordered stink spray in his pocket, casually crop dusting teenagers like he was debugging a barn. Kids started reporting headaches, then nausea, then full respiratory distress, actual hospital visits because the air in their school smelled like a porta potty exploded in a sauna. The school did what any responsible institution would do when confronted with a biohazard-level stench. They called in the professionals. Plumbers arrived. HVAC technicians tore apart the ventilation system. Gas line inspectors combed through every pipe on campus. Environmental safety crews ran air quality tests. They checked the propane system. They tested for mold, for leaks, for anything that could explain why an entire building smelled like someone had weaponized a sewage treatment plant. The invoices kept climbing. $10,000, $20,000, $40,000, while the source of the problem walked right past them every morning, nodding politely, probably wondering how long he could keep this going. Meanwhile, students were getting sent home sick. Parents were furious. Teachers were operating in hazmat-adjacent conditions, trying to teach algebra while breathing through their mouths. The school district was fielding complaints, issuing statements, reassuring everyone that they were taking the situation seriously and would get to the bottom of it, which they eventually did, literally, when surveillance footage caught Lewis strolling through the breezeway with a spray can in his hand, pausing every few feet like he was watering plants, except the plants were hallway lockers and the water was a chemical approximation of human waste. $55,000. That's what it cost to discover that the crisis wasn't structural, wasn't environmental, wasn't an act of God or a failure of infrastructure. It was a grown man with an Amazon account and apparently nothing better to do. The spray itself is marketed online as a novelty prank item, the kind of thing you'd use once at a bachelor party before everyone agrees it was a terrible idea. Lewis used it for 26 consecutive days. That's not a prank, that's a campaign. That's waking up every morning, putting on business casual attire, commuting to your job, working with children, and choosing chaos. When deputies finally arrested him, Lewis had an explanation ready. He told them he'd been using lemon-scented hand sanitizer. As if the entire school had somehow confused citrus with sewage for a solid month. As if a fleet of contractors with decades of combined experience had misidentified fresh lemon breeze as a catastrophic plumbing failure. Deputies found the actual hand sanitizer in his car, presumably still lemon-scented, presumably not capable of sending teenagers to the emergency room. The Florence County Sheriff's Office hit Lewis with 2 charges: disturbing schools and malicious injury to property valued over $10,000. The second charge is a felony, which makes sense when you consider that his month-long performance art piece cost more than some people's annual salary and resulted in children needing medical attention. The school is now out $55,000. The HVAC system has been unnecessarily disassembled and reassembled, and an entire student body has a story they'll be telling therapists for years. The truly baffling part isn't even that he did it. People do inexplicable things every day. It's that he kept doing it for weeks. Through inspections, through hospitalizations, through the school spending the equivalent of a luxury sedan trying to solve a problem he was actively perpetuating. At any point, he could have stopped. At any point, he could have said, you know what, this has gone far enough. Instead, he showed up day 23, day 24, day 25 like a performance artist nobody asked for, committed to a bit nobody wanted. Lewis is currently awaiting trial. The school has secured their HVAC systems. And somewhere out there, an Amazon seller just got the worst possible testimonial for their product. One more to go. Speaking of explanations, at least that teaching assistant tried to offer one, even if it was transparently ridiculous. Christian Beal, 24-year-old woman in Tampa, went a different direction entirely when police pulled her over after she'd been driving the wrong way down Interstate 4 at 2:30 in the morning. She told officers her husband was the one behind the wheel. Small problem. There was nobody else in the car. Not in the passenger seat, not in the back, not folded into the trunk. Just Beal, alone, insisting that her phantom spouse had been doing all the driving while she sat there innocently enjoying the ride. This wasn't a quick traffic stop either. Tampa police got the call just before 2:30 a.m. A silver Toyota Camry barreling westbound in the eastbound lanes of I-4 at roughly 60 miles per hour, which is the kind of speed that turns a wrong-way driver from a traffic hazard into a potential mass casualty event. Officers located the car and attempted to pull it over. Beal refused. She kept going, weaving through traffic that was now swerving out of her way, narrowly missing a marked police cruiser in the process, because apparently nearly killing a cop wasn't enough of a reason to reconsider her evening plans. The Florida Highway Patrol joined the pursuit. One trooper tried a tactical maneuver to stop the vehicle. It failed. Beal kept driving, wrong direction, high speed, apparently fully committed to seeing where this ended. That's when Tampa police executed a precision immobilization technique, a PIT maneuver, spinning her car out and boxing it in with patrol vehicles on both sides. The Camry finally stopped somewhere between 22nd Street and 50th Street, and officers approached with the kind of caution you'd reserve for someone who just tried to turn a highway into a demolition derby. When they asked Beal if she realized she'd been driving the wrong way on the interstate, she responded, "On this interstate?" as if there might have been some confusion about which freeway she'd been careening down in the wrong direction. As if perhaps she'd thought she was on a different, more lenient interstate where wrong-way traffic at 60 miles per hour was just part of the local charm. Then came the explanation. Officers asked her to step out of the vehicle. She complied. And that's when she told them, with apparent confidence, that her husband had been driving them home. The officers, understandably skeptical, pointed out that she was the only person in the car. Beal doubled down. No, I was in the passenger seat. She said this while standing next to the driver's side door, having just exited from behind the steering wheel, in a car that contained 0 other human beings. One officer even checked with another just to confirm they weren't experiencing some kind of shared hallucination. "There's no one else in the car," they said, as if needing to verify basic reality. Field sobriety test failed. Beal struggled to follow instructions, couldn't maintain balance, and mentioned she wasn't wearing her glasses because, as she explained, she wasn't driving home, which raises the question of how she thought she was getting home if not by driving, given that her invisible husband was apparently also invisible to her optometrist. The breathalyzer results came back at .199 and .202. The legal limit in Florida is .08. She wasn't just over the limit. She was operating at nearly 2.5 times the threshold, piloting a 2-ton vehicle the wrong way down a major interstate while insisting someone else was responsible. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkaw praised the officers for stopping her before anyone got seriously hurt or killed, which is probably the most diplomatic way to describe preventing a high-speed head-on collision caused by a woman who thought she had a co-pilot. Beal was charged with DUI with a BAC over .15, aggravated fleeing to elude, and fleeing to elude at high speed. She was transported to Orient Road Jail, where presumably the intake officer asked if her husband would be posting bail. The truly impressive part isn't that she was drunk. Florida has no shortage of impaired drivers. It's the commitment to the bit, even after being boxed in by multiple police vehicles, even after failing every possible test of sobriety and spatial awareness, even after being told repeatedly that she was alone in the car. Beal maintained that someone else had been driving. That's not confusion. That's a defensive strategy so detached from observable reality it loops back around to being almost admirable in its audacity. At least her invisible husband didn't get a ticket. Leave it in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, because God knows what other insane news I'm going to dig up next time.